Those of you who buy domains for the sake of 301 redirects, I found a domain with many relevant and one high authority links. I'm going to write one article on the topic and thinking of buying the domain and linking it to just the article. So he wants to 301 a site to one page on his website, it sounds like.
Yeah, either that or
get...
because he's
Sorry,
also hold on, let me see.
Says, will I get any benefit from it, or do I need to reinstate all the articles and get the domain index first before doing any 301?
So basically, let's simplify this question and say this. I'm thinking about 301ing a domain to an inner page article. Okay. Right.
It's also an expired domain. So he's asking later if he needs to get the domain
sure.
So up and going again.
In and of itself, I would say that 301ing the inner pages, even category pages, which used to kind of be okay, you can still get away with it if you're a massive, massive site, or if you just kind of know what you're doing. But with 301s being as tricky as they have in recent years, I would say just stick to 301ing to the homepage and don't overdo it. It's not like back in the day where you'd take a 301, even if it was aged and it was, a working site, you still kind of get volatility in the SERPs a lot of times when you 301, or you don't get much use at all, it seems, for a little while until all of a sudden you're popping up. It's like there's a trust factor in there that's, executed over time. Going to an inner page is it's a very easy way to look like you're manipulating search engine data, right? And so best practices don't do that. What's better is to find a similar domain that you can 301 to the homepage, and then you can execute 301s within the inner pages that were powerful of that old domain to your new articles, right? So like if you've got an article, best paint or best nail trimmers, then you find a 301 to an old, haircut website that had an article about nail trimmers. You would 301 that particular page to that specific page on your new website. But the overall 301 would actually be going to your homepage, if that makes sense. So it's like repurposing the old articles or the power of the old articles to your new existing pages, rather than just taking that whole domain and 301ing it to an inner page. That's just what I would say. I've done the categories pages before, and on some sites it works and some sites it doesn't. Even that, I would say, if you're asking this question, just don't do stuff like that. Just keep it as natural as possible.
What do you think about the second part of this question? Do you think he needs to build the 301 site? Do you think he needs to actually rebuild all those articles and let it start resonating again before 301ing?
So this is going to depend on a lot of stuff, right? I can't give a foolproof answer to this question, but I can tell you what I've come to find in my experience with 301s. With expired domains, I typically build some sort of shell of a website to get it indexed first before I ever consider 301ing it to a new domain. With aged domains, I typically look at how long it's been dropped or hasn't had content and how many index pages currently exist. If it's a higher value, then I might be more inclined to just 301 it versus building the old part of the old domain up and letting it resonate a bit. Now, having said that, there is also the fact that you could, at the very least, I would make sure it's indexed. That's just my personal opinion. You don't necessarily have to do that, but I would make sure it's indexed on a personal note. And then 301. And if you haven't let it resonate with content, etc., what I've noticed is there's just a much longer delayed fuse to getting the benefits out of that 301, right? And sometimes it might also induce quite a bit of volatility before it gives you the benefits to that 301. And that's kind of to shake out, the paper handlers that aren't too sure what they're doing with the 301. Yeah, we're going to mix up some stonk and crypto lingo here. And so, essentially all these things, all these maneuvers have to do with shaking out people that, aren't too familiar. Or, let's think about it this way. What is a 301 essentially? How do you conceptualize it in normal terms? A 301 is a buyout of another company, hypothetical. That's what it's designed to emulate, right? So company A buys company B, takes over their brand, boom. It's all one brand now, right? However, that also can be, used in the form of manipulation with 301s that you might buy at an auction on GoDaddy or, any number of things. So versus 5 years ago when 301s were a lot more easier to, kind of imagine what you're going to transition to by using them. Now they're more topsy-turvy, but in knowing that you kind of catalog that and add it to your advantage, what you need to know is 301s typically work better if they're more niche down and relevant to what your website's about. They typically work better if both are more established in the SERPs, both entities, meaning the money site and the site that you're going to use for 301. And what else? Kind of just froze there. Yeah, it has to do with being natural, but it might not resonate immediately. And so if you know that you've combed the backlinks, it's very niche down, everything was very clean, it had index pages, or maybe even it didn't, but it's just very clean, then over time, you have to understand that based on what you researched, it will add to your campaign in a positive manner. However, there might be volatility involved in getting to that stage. And it doesn't always last, a couple of weeks or even a couple of months. Sometimes, it's quite a bit of time before you notice this stuff resonate. And then there's ways to increase the ability to get them to resonate. So let's say I've got a 301 massive site that had a bunch of inner pages that were very powerful, lots of backlinks going to them. Repurposing those old pages like we were talking about earlier. So old page about nail clippers goes to your new page about nail clippers using a 301, right? So the main URL is going to the home page, but then you're still repurposing these old ones. Or something I like to do if hypothetical, I've bought a domain before that had lots of random URLs, /OX5G, whatever, because, they weren't search engine friendly people. And, they were just building out these pages without really knowing what they're doing. Well, a lot of times I'll repurpose those into hub pages and I'll use them exclusively for the purposes of interlinking, etc. But when you really mesh your 301 with your new domain and you show that there is work going into fusing these two entities together, you'll come to find that you can kind of get those 301s to resonate more positively and effectively quicker. So yeah, just a few things to consider. But just going back to the original question, 301 to the inner page with the main URL, not something that I would advise doing.
Yeah, so just to recap, like Nick just said, don't 301 the whole thing to the inner page. The better practice would be to 301 most of it to your homepage, and then if it had some articles that you had similar content to, you could go and just 301 those individual articles to individual pages instead of to your homepage. And then for the second part of the question, as far as it being an expired domain, do you want it, or should it be? Should you rebuild the old content and let it index and stuff before 301ing it? The answer would be it would be better. It's probably the best practice, but not necessarily necessary. But it will definitely increase your chances of things working out the way you hope for them to work out, which is rocket ship rankings, right?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much summarized it though. Anything else to add, Nick?
Mm-mm.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Be sure to check the description below for links to our blog for more info on this topic, along with a bunch of other cool stuff like case studies, our Facebook community, and our link building services. And like always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell if you enjoyed the video. Thanks and happy ranking.